Okay, so thanks for rejoining my YouTube channel. In the last section on this productivity playlist, I was going through how to turn an 8-bar loop into a 64-bar track. And this is where we got up to in that last little session. You can see there's a 64-bar track up on the screen there. I've got no idea how this actually goes. And the way that my productivity process works is that I will not listen back to this now for quite some time. What I'll do instead is I will add it to my music Trello and put it in a column called Splurge. And I'll leave it in Splurge for a couple of weeks. And then I'll review it and assess whether or not it's any good or whether it's worth taking forward. So at this stage, having just done our 8 to 64 bar blind arrangement task, which wasn't that difficult, it didn't take any time, I didn't think about the music, I didn't get stressed out about it, I just got on and did it. I can now just export the audio from this and put it in my Trello. So let's do that now. Let's just bounce project or section as an MP3 from start bar 1 to bar 65. Boom, there we go. That will now be exporting out as an MP3. Actually, I need it to go into my Dropbox Splurge folder in my automatic music machine, which I will talk about shortly. And bounce, there it goes. It is now exporting the audio bar by bar. Very slow machine, I need to get a new one, but in some ways that's a limitation, and I'll talk about that on a future video as well. And now it's converting it to an MP3. So the audio for that now exists. I just tend to save it. I don't know, I think it marks it up here, wherever, see my finger up here as being a edited file, because I changed the MP3 bounce settings. So I'll just save that so that next time I bounce it out it's going to retain those same MP3 settings. I can now close that, and now if I go back into my it's my sort of music project folder, the automatic music machine, what you'll see here is in Splurge up at the top there is a newly added MP3 on top of the project folder, project file rather, called Bubbles. Bubbles A minor 97. So I know without even looking at it or opening it, just by looking at the file title, that it's a track in, at least it's a track in A minor, and it's 97 beats per minute. So I don't even have to think about that. If I'm looking at some point to be working on something slightly slower than my normal sort of 120-ish, 120 to 130 range, then I'll look for something with a sort of 90-something at the end of the file title, and I'll know that that's one of my sort of slower ideas. I don't tend to go any lower than 90 BPM. So it's a nice little kind of parameter just to, as a sort of rough benchmark for knowing roughly what that is. Again, without having to open the folder, open the file, open the DAW file, listen to it, remember what it was. Because every time you're listening to the track, you're just getting a little bit more bored of it. Even though you might be getting excited by it, just the very fact that you're listening to it more and more times will mean that you're becoming familiar with it. And as we all know, familiarity breeds contempt. You just get bored of stuff, and you lose your energy, you lose your perspective, and that doesn't help you finish music and get it out the door. So let's turn to Trello now. And at this point I will talk a little bit about this automatic music machine. So the first thing I'm going to say, this is not my idea. This idea is entirely the work and achievement of the marvellous Mike Monday at Make Music Your Life, who is a incredible guy, incredible musician, incredible talent, but also an incredible and very engaging tutor now, in not so much in music as in music, but music as in the creative and sort of productivity, sort of psychology and processes around getting stuff done. He's a great guy. I did a course with him at the end of last year, having looked at loads of his free stuff, which I couldn't recommend highly enough. And this is the process that he teaches. He invented it. It works really well. I've made quite a lot of amendments to it just to suit my way of working, but it's still pretty much the same thing. So let's just open up my Trello now, which is here. And what you'll see is I've got a set of, and by the way, this is mainly for Dan's benefit. There's a few other people, Dave, I think will be watching this. I know Neil may well be watching as well. Rich might be listening, and hopefully Nigel as well. Nigel, that reminds me, I've got to talk to you about the Reason Compact stuff. I haven't done that yet. I'm going to drop you a line shortly on that. But what you'll see here, again, I've got my folder here ordered by chronology, so it's not ordered by number, but basically I've got a series of folders here which have all the project files. They're either logic or reason files. Sometimes there's a bit of audio in there, the MP3s, etc. But each one of these has a sort of different batch of stuff in it, and you can already see that I've got a heck of a lot of stuff, because another part of the Mike Monday process is to focus on just daily habit. So every single day, without fail, I will make a little mini idea like I was talking about in the last video. Then I turn it from 8 bars into 64, and then I dump it into this system. So those are called, in Mike Monday language, they're called splurges. So my little idea that we looked at a moment ago that I turned into a 64 bar track is called Bubbles. That is now in Splurge. It's in my Splurge folder, and these folders, Splurge, Sketchbook, Release, In Progress and Released and Ideas, match Trello columns here. So what you've got is, and again I'll just take it from the Mike Monday way of doing things, I'll talk about my stuff in a moment, but basically your sketchbook, which has a corresponding folder here which has an awful lot of ideas in it. These are all the 64 bar song ideas. All of these are 64 bar song ideas. They are all listed here in this sketchbook bookmark Trello column. All of them, they all correspond. So if you open up one of these, this one has got it's got a yellow bookmark tab on it. That is a track at 123 BPM, and it was due for me to listen back on the 16th of April, which I've now done, so I've checked it as complete. But I leave that date in there just to remind me of roughly when I was working on this, which sort of period of 2 or 3 weeks I was working on. But basically this is where everything ends up. It comes in from the splurge process, which I was just talking about. So every day I do something. It's all of these things are the current ones. I haven't moved into Sketchbook yet because I haven't listened to them back yet. But when you do one and you export the MP3, which is what I'm about to do now from our little track Bubbles that we were working on a moment ago, is you drop the MP3 onto a new card in Splurge like this, plop, just onto add another card. What Trello will do automatically is create a new card. It will upload the audio to the Trello cloud space. It's an Amazon AWS system, I think, on the back end of this. And what happens now is that MP3 is now saved within Trello to this card, and it's automatically named it with the file name. I usually delete the extension, and that's ready. And then what I then do is I put a due date on it of at least a week from now. So even though I actually did the Bubbles Splurge session on my phone, making the 8 bar initial idea, I would have done that probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. The longer you leave it, the better, generally. So I'll put a due date in. I always put a due date in from a week after I actually put it in the actual system. So today's the 7th, so my reminder will tell me that I'm allowed to listen to this back critically listen to it, check whether it's any good or not, next week on the 14th. So save that, close that down, bump. And now Bubbles is down at the bottom there, after all these other ones that I've still got to listen through to. But you'll see there's about a month's, actually about half a month's worth of stuff there. The first one, which is ready to listen to, was due to listen back on the 4th of May, it's the 7th now, so a few days ago. These ones are all coming up now. These are all now nearly a week between me putting them in the system and actually listening to them. And then these ones are ones I've done over the last few days, so I'm going to leave those a little bit longer. But that's basically how you get these ideas from a few minutes tinkering about with your phone, turn them from an 8-bar loop into a 64-bar track, and then park them into this wonderful, really helpful automatic music machine Trello system to know where they are, know what they're called, know when you can go back to listen to them, and then plug them into the wider production process that this Trello system allows you to work to. I'll do a more detailed overview of that soon, but I'm taking, as I say, no credit for this. It's all Mike Monday's idea. I have tweaked it. I've probably doubled it in some ways in terms of capacity. I've got lots more labels. I've got a few more folders because I've got all my old ideas here that I haven't finished yet from before I knew about this system. So there's a ton of stuff there as well. And I'll talk in a future video about the productivity process and how you can actually get stuff finished, about how I move my ideas from each of them, what these things mean. What does discover mean? Draft, done, release, released. What do these little labels mean? I'll talk all about those in a future video. But for now, that's how you can take your 64-bar mini idea, export it out as an MP3, put it into the Trello production process, and have it waiting for you to listen back to after a certain amount of time. So you'll be listening to it with fresh ears, and you're going to be much, much more likely to listen to it with an unbiased, non-critical ear.